See, I'm no stranger to horror games, but still they scare the living shit out of me. Yeah, I know I'm a bitch, so what? In this video, I have 5 of the scariest horror games I could find, with each game getting more scary until we reach the scariest game. So with that, sit back, relax, and enjoy this video. This first game is called The Last Bus Home, and it's a very simple horror game that delivers the horror factor very well. So without further ado, let's get into it. We begin this game in a random bus stop in the middle of what seems to be nowhere. There's nothing surrounding us beside just complete utter darkness. All we see is a bin full of flies, you know, an absolutely amazing thing to see. And beside that, we have obviously the bus stop and the details on when the next bus is to arrive. And we get a quick little prompt saying around 3 minutes to go. We wait in urgency because we really want to get out of this spot. And then randomly, just as we thought nothing was going to happen, someone appears. Oh. Hello. A random person wearing a coat and some black gloves appears from, well, nowhere. We just quickly assure ourselves that this person is waiting for the bus and that they aren't suspicious at all. The person goes toward the area to check when the bus arrives and then just stands in the corner. This person seems normal until they start eyeing us down and begin to ask some questions. Men ask, "Hey kid, what brings you here so late?" He then implies that you're not a talker, are you? The man then offers us a bottle of beer, which he possesses. It is then our choice to accept this man's beer. He keeps edging us on, saying, "Come on, take a sip." But we well, I don't budge. I mean, if a man with a coat decides to walk in the middle of nowhere, I mean, it's pretty obvious to assume that, well, this man is going to probably do something pretty bad. So we wait for the bus, and the man says, "You will regret this one." The bus arrives, however, I was too busy focusing on the man that I actually missed the bus. The bus then just drives off, and as soon as the bus fully gets away, the man attacks. We try again, because we want to get the good ending. This time the man appears, says all of his dialogue, and offers us the beer. This time though, the beer was too tempting, so we accept the man's offer, drink the beer, and then we go missing. So yeah, this man is up to no good. This game really is good at making questions and making you go, why is this person doing the things that he's doing? Hey, now, I'm a bit concerned because you came from the middle of absolutely nowhere. It does give you full context when the thing happens, but to actually try and figure out if the man is good or not was by far what made this game pretty unnerving for the player. I then went again and went through all the man's dialogue, and then we waited for the bus to arrive. This time without second hesitation, we pretty much take the bus and leave pretty much instantly. We take the bus, and this is the only way to actually survive the 3 encounters. And that is pretty much it for this game. It's a pretty short and well thought out game with a really interesting premise. By far the least scariest game of the video, but one that's going to start us off pretty nicely. Alrighty, let's move to the next game of the video, which is called Huntsman. Quick thing before we get into this game, I hate spiders. Like, spiders just suck in general, no one likes them, and I hate them to the point where if I see one, my body has a full reaction to it. Like, I will jump out of my chair, walk down the street in fear. So, no spoilers, but this game is, well, it's a spider horror game. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Let's hop straight into this one. So we begin this game in a room, and it appears that we are in some sort of lockdown. We immediately go toward these papers set on this desk in front of us, which pretty much reads out that they've observed a increased aggression in specimen X17. This X17 is very dangerous, very venomous, and well, it's a giant spider. Furthermore, this is the security guard's last shift. It reads that we need to go ahead and grab the blue key card, and we need to do this before she heads out. There's also a spare purple key card on the desk in the reception, and that's pretty much it in terms of these notes. Okay, so with these notes out of the way, this room has a bunch of cool looking paintings, which do give me some Warhammer vibes. I don't know why this picture just does that completely. Maybe I'm just tweaking out. Yeah, I pretty much hop straight into the main living quarters of this area, and in record timing, I literally go around the corner and then I see it. a massive spider. Just to put it in perspective, this thing is huge, like huge. So when I saw it, first of all, I was like, yep, not happening. I instantly looked the other way, but by that point, it was too late. The spider literally snuck up behind me and stabbed me within an instant. Nope. Goodbye. Nope. Nope. What the f? This was terrifying. You can hear the expression in my voice. I was distraught when this happened. We went again, and this time around, I thought, hey, let's not go the way I went last time because that ended up in, well, death. So I end up going upstairs, which has a bunch of cool looking rooms. There's this massive meeting room that honestly has nothing inside of it, but most importantly, we found a purple thing with a lock on it. This is obviously referencing one of the key cards we need, so basically at this point, we need to go find some key cards. I did find the blue key card, however, the security guard that had it wasn't so lucky, so rest in peace, security guard, you will be missed. We head downstairs where we find a yellow glowing like vent tube. This is, I'm assuming, where we have to place the final thing to destroy the spider. But yeah, for now, anything's up in the air, so I go ahead and find a room with a blue key card on it. When interacting with the door, it opens and here we get some cameras, which is quite nice. What's not so nice is on the camera, the spider just randomly darted through the camera. And yeah, the camera was absolutely disgustingly terrifying. I did not want to see a 90-foot spider. Okay, a bit of an exaggeration. I'm not good with math. A big spider running down the hallway. I did not want to see that. Instead, what I did is I wrapped around the whole building where I found another keycard. With this keycard equipped, I again tried going around the main area. However, this time around, a massive cobweb blocked my path. I couldn't go through the cobweb because, spoiler warning, you don't make it out alive. So I decided to go around the place where I ended up stumbling across another cobweb. So I decided to test out what happens if I go into the cobweb. And yeah. So not doing that again, this time I pretty much went straight upstairs where I found the emergency protocol. It pretty much states that if there's a massive breach, we need to destroy the X-17 specimen. To do this, we need to combine substances that will create a lethal reaction, which will make it so the specimen is no more. So with that, we had to pretty much go ahead and find items for this thing we're going to make. I did find a couple of the items, which was pretty nice. However, I still needed more items to make this formula. So going around the building, I eventually made it toward this kitchen-like area. The reason why this took me a while to get to is this was blocked off by both of the cobwebs by the spider. So I pretty much had to go ahead and go through the top of the building, wrap around the staircase to make it toward this area. Thankfully though, this had one of the final ingredients which I needed, which was the salt. I then found the other item which I needed, which I ran past multiple times because it was actually in the room next to where the formula is made. So after grabbing the hydrogen peroxide, I was then able to make the toxic solution. With this solution, I made it toward the yellow vent and immediately placed it without hesitation. This caused the whole place to become green, and with a swift stinky fart, the spider was no more. Just even going next to this thing, I was on edge because I didn't know if it perhaps was a little bit more alive than it seemed. But no, it says spider eliminated, which means we're pretty much safe. So this next game is called Fears to Fathom Home Alone. This game has multiple episodes that tackle different psychological horror experiences, and for this video we're going to specifically be playing the Home Alone one because, well, it sounds interesting. So without further ado, let's hop straight into it. This game begins with a dialogue saying that we were up at the middle of the summer. The parents had left for the weekend due to a work trip, which meant that the character was all by themselves for the weekend. That's pretty much all the context we're given, and just with that, the game begins. We awake in our bed after taking a very rewarding afternoon nap. As we awake, we immediately go ahead and turn that alarm off because, me, that is annoying. After turning off the alarm, we get up and we have to go and do some homework. Actually, that we're not doing homework because who's gonna do homework when we're starving? So we go ahead and start to explore the house. Well, it's our house, but we haven't actually explored it yet. But before doing that, we get a text from Mum and also from Mason. Mum is just saying that there's no need to order anything. I already made you lasagna this morning, check the fridge. and Mason wants to come over to play some Mario Kart. However, there's a certain someone that he wants to go to first. Essentially, Mason is a huge simp. Anyways, after this little texting game, we go ahead and go into Mum's room. As we explore the room, we go ahead and check the window for some reason. However, the window does allure to someone in the front of the house walking around. This was terrifying. Like, genuinely, who on earth was walking around our front yard at 8 o'clock? We brush it off because perhaps someone got lost, took the wrong turn, yada yada yada. We don't know what actually is going on here. So we end up going downstairs to make ourselves some sweet old lasagna. We open the fridge, grab the lasagna tray and head toward our oven. We turn that on and now it's about time we get some food in us. With the lasagna all ready, we go ahead and put the TV on because, well, who does not eat whilst watching YouTube? I know I do. We start eating our deliciously made lasagna, and after getting around halfway done, we can see something in the corner of our eye. How yum. Yum. Whoa, 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 whoa. On our staircase, for some reason, a man, a really dark shadow can be seen walking up the stairs. Whatever this is, at this point, we are no longer home alone. So we go ahead and finish eating our lasagna and then we chuck the tray onto the couch like all normal humans do. After this, we turn off the TV to save some power and we go ahead and make it toward our bedroom. Mason declines our offer to come over to our house and says, "Sorry mate, I'll come over tomorrow." Again, some simp behavior. After this, we realize we need to do some homework or else we're gonna get really behind in class. So we go ahead and sit down and begin to study for multiple hours. Honestly, if you ask me, this is the most horrifying part of the whole game, doing homework. Anyways, once this is done, Mum texts us again saying, "Don't stay up too late, you kids. I shouldn't get to hear from Miss Paula this time." We listen to Mum and we go ahead and shut our door and go for a little nap. However, abruptly during our sleep, something awakes us. Our need for getting some water. You know those times where you wake up at 3 AM and you have to really drink water for some unknown reason? Well, this is exactly what's going on here. However, this time around, something doesn't feel right. Whether it be the ambience going a little bit up than it was before, or just the whole feeling of the house, something is wrong. So we go downstairs, open the fridge, and grab ourselves some nice water. After chugging this, we go back up because there's nothing really for us to do down here. Interestingly though, in our TV, someone put it on debug mode. This wasn't done by us because, well, we were asleep the whole time. So already suspicions are risen and we go ahead and make it to the backyard to see what's going on. The backyard has really nothing for us to look at beside a nice SUV. So we go back inside, go back upstairs, and Mum texts us again. "Miles, who's that at the door? You there? Something is at our door in the middle of the night." This would, I guess, make any kid freak the hell out. And, well, it made me hide underneath the bed for at least 5 minutes straight. There was no way I was going to face whatever this thing was. But for some reason I thought, hey, nothing's happening in the game, perhaps we should go outside and just run for it. So I'm like, yep, let's go ahead and leg it. So we open up the front door and... Whoa! I could do not. This is probably the most shocked I've ever been in a video game. For some reason, this absolutely just took me off guard. The weird thing about this game is if you get jump scared like that, you have to restart from the beginning. So we play this game again and make it to around where we were before. This time I remained glued in my bedroom. I did not want to leave this room. I then started hearing some police sirens, and I also got a text from Mum saying that it's all good to go outside. At first, I was quite hesitant about trusting Mum because I thought that the stranger may have somehow hijacked the connection line and started texting us instead. But when I heard the police sirens, I thought, hey, it perhaps is safe to go outside. So I began to open the bedroom door and walk toward the stairs. But then this happened. Ah! No. I could you not. I was shocked. I'm pretty sure he had a gun. Like there was something in his hand that didn't seem normal. So I stayed in my room for a bit. After realizing that there was no way of escaping beside running through the front door, I made a massive leg for it. And thankfully though, when I opened the front door, this time instead of being met by a random person, we were met by a random person, but a police car, so I guess we're safe. Moving on, this next game is called Voyager 19. If you don't like planets, and first of all, planets are very beautiful. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some absolute banger planets out there. But when you start hearing sounds from the planets, then starts to get a little bit off the rails. And there's some other things that can happen to planets that can also be quite terrifying, and that's what we're gonna get straight into. We have officially been set a task by the government. They've given us a really specific task to search for habitable planets in the Okrulu sector. However, secret here, the real mission is to figure out what happened to the Megala science expedition that went missing there. The public, yes, you and I are unaware that what they've actually done is deviated from their original course. They do not want this getting publicized. They've provided us with a Voyager 19 series spacecraft, and it's pretty but it has hibernation tech and fractional light speed capable engines, which is, I guess, the average in this day and age. We have 7 missions to complete, and with that all said and done, we hop straight into the game. We are very cramped, like this voyage is not big at all. There's pretty much only space for us to stand there. We can't actually sleep or do anything. We can only stand and look at this thing in front of us. This control panel has multiple systems on it, including a mission, navigation, sensors, power, and a files tab. Each tab houses unique properties that we're going to need to harness in order to complete our expedition. Let's start with the power tab. Here is where we can go ahead and put power into different abilities of the probe. The first is navigation, then our thrusters, then we have camera and our radio, and obviously our life support. Our life support has to remain on. We cannot tamper with this or else, well, we won't have life. And pretty much all the other tools can be used by differentiating our power. When we put power onto a certain task, it drains it, and as you can see to our right, yeah, we don't want to get toward the red, or we could be pushing it. The main goal is to pretty much use the navigation tool to find other planets in the system. When we find the planet, we have to go ahead and basically take a picture of it in a centered position. The probe is easy to maneuver. All we need to do is press 2 buttons and it will realign the spacecraft with the planet. And our goal is to pretty much get a centered picture of the planet and also have some audio of the planet's, like, I guess, atmosphere. Just by the way, hearing planets and their sounds that they can make, I don't know about you, but that creeps the absolute out of me. I don't want to hear a planet and what it sounds like because some of these things sound insane. Eventually, I would get the hang of things. It did take me a little bit to actually do because, well, there's so many different things to use and it was a learning process, but eventually I was able to take a pretty nice picture of this, well, lifeless planet. And after this, it was time to hear the audio and oh my, this just sounds completely terrifying. What the f? There was multiple planets to go ahead and check out, and after we went ahead and took a picture and audio of all the planets, we could pretty much go straight into hibernation. There's no break. We sleep, wake up again, and do the exact same task. It's unknown how much time has passed since our hibernation, but one thing is for sure, there's new planets, so we've actually traveled into a new solar system. Our task is the exact same, just go ahead and go to each planet by using the thrusters, use the radio to hear the planet, and take a nice picture of the planet from its bright side. That's another thing I forgot to mention. We need to make sure that we're taking the picture from the face of the planet facing the sun. And this means that we have to maneuver the spacecraft to exactly the side where the sun is facing. This was a little bit finicky at first, but eventually I would get the hang of things and be able to really get through some of these planets. This did take me through multiple solar systems where we started to get some really cool looking planets, and the audio as well was just a cherry on top. I mean, it is terrifying but also pretty cool at the same time. All was well until I was just moving through this solar system in the Magala vessel, and all of a sudden I hear a massive thud echoing throughout the chamber I'm in. And then I look at the computer screen and it says impact detected. I kid you not, I thought I was going to, well... But thankfully though, the vessel does end up combating this meteorite and somehow doesn't explode upon impact. We were able to continue the expedition, and not only that, but the next planet, well, planet in quotation mark, was not really a planet. It was more of a, well, whatever this is. Now you might just be thinking, oh, it's another Voyager. Why is this so important? Well, the reason I'm bringing this up is why would there be a broken Voyager in this system? You might be thinking, oh, it may have crashed into a meteorite. Oh, a planet may have somehow gobbled it up. No, there's something going on here, and let's continue looking around because this is very interesting. And my suspicions were starting to become true because just after a few more cycles of me going to sleep and waking up, I found this planet. This is not a planet. It could be a planet, but I mean, it looks like a marble. My best guess is it's some sort of like energy source or something, but this was very interesting. This is my first taste of the strangeness happening in this solar system. Another interesting note is the planet is literally silent. It doesn't make a singular sound. We then note this in our journal saying that there's an anomaly, no shit, and that the planet does not exist. So it's either an error from the report, but yeah, after moving on from this weird encounter, we go ahead and check the entire solar system once again. Another weird planet begins to appear, and it does take a similar shape to the last one. The planet is translucent. It's like some sort of weird mesh of just matter, but the really strange part is when you listen up, it has a literal heartbeat. What the f is this game? It's got a heartbeat. After this shocking discovery that the planets are alive, or well, maybe alive, this doesn't sound normal for a radio to respond like that. And this encounter would happen multiple times throughout the solar system. It appears that something is very wrong here, and we begin to journal some of our findings into our journal. It appears that perhaps we're going insane because this log is more of a weird like relation to fish and to other fish, and we start getting really deep into meaning of life, which I mean, is it an effect from the planet or are we just going cuckoo? Who knows? So we continue hibernating, waking up, doing the same task, and interestingly, as we continue our expedition, the ship starts to lose power, which means that we don't have enough available power to do all the tasks at once. We need to start diversifying our power and begin to use less of it, which does make these tasks a lot harder, but they are still somewhat manageable. And by the time we reached our last expedition, the planets themselves began to look really strange. And the moment things go off the rails is when we see this Earth-like planet. Finally, we have found the habitable planet that we have been searching for all these years. However, it's not so habitable as we thought, because the planet is hiding a very dark secret. It is alive, and it begins to show why that Voyager from before was not so alive. Because it begins to warp, and literally it starts to look more like a jellyfish as it begins to transform. Oh. 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 Oh my god. And it's now where we really find out why we shouldn't be in this solar system. It was luring us the whole time. The false hope of a habitable planet ended up being an absolute monster. And all we can hear is the heartbeat from the planet as it begins to transcend, and we can hear as the ship is starting to surrender to its gravitational pull. The planet is beginning to do its final attack, and it then swallows us whole. Oh. And that is the end of Voyager 19, one of the most well-made horror games I've ever seen. It's really interesting seeing how planets can be so peaceful, but when you add the twist that maybe they're alive, it completely changes your perspective of them. Okay, the last game for this video, the scariest game yet, is called Paroxysm. This game is a body cam horror game, and pretty much it's like found footage type of style. So yeah, enough rambling, let's get straight into this one. We begin this game in a gloomy little back room, and it appears that this main character, whose face has been blurred off for some reason, is a kind of ghost hunter that is pretty much trying to find ghosts and just try and find horror stories for his channel. However, this time around, he's found a place that is a little bit different to the places he's been prior, in that it's very disturbing. And that about puts us straight into the game. We begin in this courtyard where we can see a green light just ahead of us. We have to venture through this alleyway where we see a bunch of abandoned apartments. They don't seem to be lively. We seem to be here in the middle of the night, and all we can pretty much hear is the rain, and the atmosphere itself is very well, it sets the tone for this game. There's nothing really here for us to explore beside, well, I guess the scenery. We eventually stumble upon a door with a plank on it, so by removing the plank, we can then enter this apartment. The apartment has many floors, and the floor we need to get to is, well, the top floor. So by running up this long, massive stairway, we eventually reach the top of the building where we find a key. The key then allows us to conveniently open a apartment door, which leads to a very abandoned looking apartment. This place is filled with a bunch of random toys and a bunch of random stuff, to be honest. We straight away pull out our EMF reader and also a motion detector to see if there's any ghosts lurking around this apartment. Our goal is to find a EMF reading of 5, which if you haven't played Phasmophobia, I'll quickly tell you what that is. Essentially, it means that there's ghosts in that proximity. So by walking around the apartment, the EMF starts to pick up. So this kind of alludes to something being a little bit off in this room. We then explore the apartment in a little bit more detail, and just some of the things here are very weird. I mean, there's a mask in this random room on the side of the apartment that, to be honest, I have no idea what it's doing there, but it's there and it looks terrifying. Moving around, eventually something weird happens. I can't see. What's this? Who the f turned off the power? Oi. What the f is going on here? And I can't lie, I was quite terrified when this happened because, well, I didn't know what to expect when this happened. But we moved on, and eventually I would find where the EMF picked up the most. The room was to the left of the living room, and here is where we have to perform a summoning ritual. It consists of, well, placing down a bunch of sketchy stuff and then reread some, like, I'm assuming Bible stuff. I don't know if this is actually from the Bible, I have no idea. After reading this, we then get transported into a church. The church is very red, and it has, well, a bunch of people, let's just say. And in the middle of this altar, we find a book. After picking up the book, we turn around and we are greeted with a certain something. Why? Whoa, hello, hi. After this encounter, things are a little bit different. We seem to have awakened some sort of entity who is now beginning to stalk us. So we have to move on with caution, as we could become its next prey if we're not careful. Since this encounter, pretty much things were actually not going bad. There was no signs of entities at all, and nothing was actually happening inside the apartment. With a sigh of relief, I thought I was fine, until I went into one of the rooms I hadn't been to yet. You see, in the living room, there's another area where you can look out on. And on this balcony, just to the right of it, I could see what seemed to be a woman standing in the area outside the building. And what happened next startled me, let's just say. Whoa! What the f- Whoa! Whoa! Wait. Close the door, close the door! Dude, there's a ghost lady running after me, bro. Please don't come and get to me. I kid you not, even rewatching this clip, that was terrifying. I don't know why, just seeing this just happen was something I can't even put into words. I was scared. And you could still hear the woman going up the stairs as you went closer toward the door, and that just alone is insane. But... The good news is I didn't see anything besides just hearing the audio of the footsteps of the woman. So I went around the apartment another time to check for any new discoveries. And inside the kitchen, I nearly got a knife toward the head. So the entity is pretty angry, as it should be. And then I decided to go ahead and go to the front of the apartment. This is where I made a fatal mistake, because as I turned around, everything changed. There was now just a massive hallway just going into the abyss. I made my way down the hallway until I reached the end of it. There was nowhere to run, and the hallway lights began to dim and completely shatter. And then a red hue could be seen illuminating the room. And then, just a cherry on top, the entity's hands start to cave in on us and it just takes us whole. Thankfully, it didn't decide to, well, put an end to us. We made it back to the apartment somehow. And I'm a bit confused, but overall, I could really sense that we were in very much a lot of danger. The TV turned on and it said toilet, skull, and key. So going to the bathroom, I put my hand into the toilet. To save you the grossness, we pretty much got the key and it was time to, well, look around the place. Interestingly, the area that was boarded off before where I placed the ritual actually was now accessible. The room looks empty. There's not really much beside a wall with just a bunch of scratching on it. I will then get a prank call from the entity. It just started laughing. I don't know why. And after this, I would make it back to the bathroom where the entity started playing with my mind. It said, "Go away." Well, sorry entity, but I can't go away if the door to leave the building is locked. I then opened up the blinds and as I opened it, it started to read different texts. So I kept opening and opening this door until, well, there was no text. "You are not welcome here. This is your last warning." Well, I can't leave. They are watching. After getting jump scared and me basically flying 5 meters off my chair, I would then sit back down and move into what seems to be a basement. This area is absolutely nightmare fuel. We can see what seems to be the entity's eyes in this random room. And we began to, I guess, explore the rest of the area. But as we did this, a massive text said run. We made a brace for it because the entity was now right behind us. Frantically, we made it toward this boarded off room, which again, red lights, not looking too good. And around 5 seconds later, we got jump scared. The key, I have the key. You stay away from my bro. Again, we made it back to the apartment and opening this drawer, it would read a message. The message is saying that things are pretty bad. There's echoes behind the walls and just keep hiding. That's pretty much what the message says. And with that new information, I would make it around the apartment because again, there wasn't really much going on. After reading this note, we make our way back toward the room which was boarded off before. This time, however, we see that we can actually interact with, well, the wall. The wall that was previously marked with some sort of scratch actually hides a pretty dark and twisted secret. Because as we open this wall, we can see what seems to be the remains of the victim of this apartment. And to our dismay, there's a note that reads, "If this note falls into someone's hands, let them know that they have not freed the woman's spirit. Instead, they have cursed her soul upon themselves. Now her nightmare will be your reality. There is no escape." After reading this horrific message, we are now able to exit the apartment. With a sigh of relief, we can finally leave this terrifying apartment. But as fate would have it, as we leave, we can see the woman in the corner of our screen. She seems to be watching our every move, and as we get closer toward the woman, she disappears and reappears in multiple sections in this area. She slowly stalks us until we eventually leave this place behind. This concludes the events of the game, and a message appears on the screen. This seems to be a written epilogue of the main character and their experience during the game. They say how they were very disturbed with the events of the apartment. I don't blame them. But they then continue to write that, did they really escape? Or will this horror follow me forever? A real fear, because as we left the apartment, it's clear the entity is still with us, even though we left the apartment behind. And after reading this message, on screen is the remains of the main antagonist. They seem to have succumbed to the entity's rage, and that concludes the events of Paroxysm. This game is nothing but disturbing. The story, the scenery, everything is absolutely at its max when it comes to the fear factor. And this is by far the scariest game I have encountered. But yeah, what did you think of this video? If you enjoyed it, smash a like, and if you are brand new here to this channel, then subscribe as well. I will try and post as many of these type of videos as I can. So if you enjoyed, subscribe, because I can tell you right now, many more of these videos are going to come out in the foreseeable future. On screen here is a video where I play some Minecraft horror mods that get increasingly scary, so check that out if you haven't already. But anyways, until next time, take it easy and goodbye.